Welcome back again. My name is Aditya and this is CCNP 2.0 Root Series. In CCNP 2.0 Root Series, so far we have discussed under Layer 2 technology, subtopic which is PPP configuration and verification. We have already gone through a high level overview of PPP and authentication over PPP using PAP in chat. In this section, what we're going to do, we're going to configure and understand point-to-point protocol over Ethernet, which is client side only. So basically, when we connect with our ISP to get internet connectivity using DSL service or a DSL system, you can say, we using point-to-point protocol over Ethernet right there. So now we need to understand what configuration going to be make on your client router or a router which is held by customer or located on customer's home or office. So this is all about which we are going to discuss. So as we know very well, PPP has many features than other protocol. It is media independent, compression, authentication, and so on. Similarly, if you're talking about media independent, we can run PPP over serial, Ethernet, or some other interface. So now this is basic about PPPOE, which is point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. Now we need to discuss a little bit more where your point-to-point protocol over Ethernet going to be fit. So in this case, suppose if you have an existing phone line or most of ISP actually offer a DSL broadband service. On DSL broadband service, they allow voice call as well as the data. So the cable which is coming from your ISP or telco, whatever you can say, then after we need to use a splitter which separate the traffic. So voice call going to the direction of your receiver. In the data, which is the digital packet, that is goes to your actually DSL router or DSL modem. So on existing telephone system, you can use your DSL service or your ISP can offer you the DSL service, which is digital subscriber line. So I'm not going to talk all about that. So this is the basic concept where we can use point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. So here we are going to apply point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. The next thing which we need to discuss a little bit more about PPPOE. So PPPOE provide the ability to connect network of host to a remote access server, also called the network access server or a broadband remote access server, which is located to the ISP. And not similarly. So PPPOE has two stage, which is discovery stage and PPP session stage. On discovery stage, we have four more sub stage, which is PADI, PPPO active discovery, and PPP active discovery offer, likewise active discovery request, and finally PPPOE active discovery session confirmation or PAD-DS packet. Not finally this one actually, the PPPOE active discovery termination. The second stage is PPP session stage. So now I'm not going to discuss all about that as I told you earlier, but we need to have a basic idea how your DSL actually works. So this is the connection. This is goes to your telco. Telco may have also some kind of device which going to split your voice call to other network and your digital data, which is your data originated by your computer or by your router, to the direction of network access point or an app, which is backbone of internet. So ISP may be connected to an app or some other source, some other way to access internet actually. And they may have some kind of server for authentication and for billing or measure your data, how much data you have used so far, and so on and so forth. So the next thing which need to discuss, how we can apply this on our Cisco router. So on Cisco router you can configure a particular router as a client as well as a server. So but in ISP they may have some special, as I told you earlier, a special device which make the voice call separate and data traffic separate. And they may also have some kind of server, it could be Windows or Linux or some other box, that maintain username and password, means thousands and thousands of username and password that maintained by this box, because your router, you know well, they do not have enough memory to handle lots of username and password configuration. So let me discuss a little bit more the configuration. I think I should go through step by step configuration. So let me turn my device on in order to verify configuration of PPPOE server as well as client. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to configure both server as well as client so that we can verify the connectivity of point-to-point protocol over Ethernet. So let me turn my devices up. Alright, so my device is up and working. This is the topology which I am going to use. I am using two router, which is TS, core router A and core router B. So core router A and B going to be or treat as a client, and my TS is working as a server. And this is the interface which I am connected with. So on server side, this is the 5 steps which I require to do. Create a BBA or broadband group, and using on this group we also need to attach a templates. So before attaching templates, we also have a virtual templates or interface template where all those information going to be work. So let me go through the configuration that makes sense a lot rather than discuss about this. So first thing is BBA group, and on group we are going to use protocol PPPOE. And now we need to specify the name of group. So in this case, the name of group is the customer. You can put anything else. So the CUSTMOR. And once we created the BBA group, now we need to attach a templates. On template, rest of configuration is belong to with these templates. So the virtual templates one, which is going to attach with this group. So we have specified these templates. Now we need to create this template. So virtual interface virtual templates number 1, because we have specified already, and the IP address of these templates. Suppose we're going to assign IP address 1.1.1.1 into 55.255.255.0, no shutdown. So whatever IP address is a part of the templates, actually this is part of interface of server which is connected to the client. So make sure make sure your physical IP address, or sorry, the template's IP address should be the same subnet of your local pool. The next thing what we need to do, this is the IP address in peer, excuse me, peer default IP address. So suppose if someone coming to us or a client calling to us to authenticate or to connect with us, their IP address will be going to assign from the pool, and the name of pool is a, you can put anything. So in my case, I would like to use test underscore pool. The next thing, PPP authentication char, and then after call in. So whoever we want to connect with, they need to come with the appropriate credential, which is username and password. So once they calling in or they want to connect with us, their credentials should be match of whatever we have stored on our database. So currently we are working as a server. So we created the VBA group, virtual templates, then IP address of templates, which is going to attach with this group. And then if someone client coming to us connect with, this is the IP address which we are going to assign using the pool. So now we need to allocate the pool. Since we have assigned IP 1.1.1.1, so what I'm going to do, exit IP local pool. This is not like DSCP actually. IP local pool, and then name of pool was actually test pool. Okay, so this is test underscore pool. In starting IP address will be 1.1.1.2 and 1.1.254. So this is the range which can be assigned to the customer. Then last thing which we need to do, we need to maintain credentials of customer. So in my case, I have a customer core router A and core router B. So user CRA, and then after password is CISCO. So password should be matched on both sides. Similarly, I have another router, core router B, password is CISCO. The next step, what we need to do, we need to turn the interface on, which is connected to your network or your local network. In my case, this is actually F0/1. So this is interface F0/1. PPPOE enable with the group setting, which was the name of group was actually, it was customer actually. Yes, it was. So let me copy that one. I think we have created, let me verify, because the BBA group is customer, exactly. And then no shut this interface. So this is the configuration of server, which we don't need to bother a lot, but we need to understand the client configuration. So far we created VBA group, virtual interface, an IP local pool, credential, and apply to the physical interface. The second thing which we need to define on client inside, we need to create a dialer list, and we also tune the MTU size, because if you're talking about PPPOE header, which is 8 byte. So because of that, we need to tune little bit about our MTU. So this is all about, let me show IP interface brief. Let me see the physical interface, whether this is, yes, this is up actually. So hop over core router A. On core router A and core router B, the configuration going to be almost same except to the nothing. Everything is going to be same. So the interface, first we need to create a dialer interface which is going to dial the credential and all about in order to connect with ISP, and then IP address going to be negotiated from the ISP, and encapsulation of dialer is PPP, and then after we going to use PPP chap authentication and password will be CISCO. Now we can see in earlier if you have seen the PPP username and password going to assign on globally, but in this case this is going to assign on a dialer interface. So whenever your dialer interface going to dial want to connect with ISP, which means dial, they're going to use password is Cisco and then username is CRA, which is the host name of router. The next thing is Cisco, and then after dialer pool number one, we want to put this dialer on pool number one. We need to define this thing actually, and this is the group number one. Last thing is IPMTU, and size is 1492. No shirt. So this is the all about our dialer. The next thing which we need to do, let me do so run. Let me verify section dialer or dialer. Is this identical? So interface dialer 1, IP address negotiate, IP MTU is this one, and encapsulation will be running PPP. So actually this is going to connect with Ethernet. You don't need to be specify PPPOE. And then dialer pool number 1 group and PPP authentication chap, and our password will be Cisco. The next thing, apply with the interface. So this is my physical interface, no shutdown, and then after PPPOE enable on this interface, PPPOE hyphen client dialer pool. So currently I am working as a client, and this is my dialer pool, and whatever pool has content regarding username and password or some other settings that I am going to send with or share with the ISP. The next thing which we need to see or verify, the dialer is up and get IP or receive IP address from ISP or not. As we can see, yes, we do have. The next thing we need to specify the connectivity from the ISP. As we can see, we do have a connectivity from the ISP. Similarly, the same thing need to be configured on core router B. So first let me configure on core router A, and then after I am going to paste the configuration of core router A to core router B, because the rest of thing going to be the same. So far we have this one. One more thing, what kind of traffic which we going to allow with this dialer interface. So actually I think by default is IP, but sometime you may need to be specified. But currently everything is fine. So the dialer list number 1 protocol which we going to allow. Let me make a little bit, which is IP, IPv6 or something else. In my case this is IP and permit. That's good. But let's see, if we want to connect with ISP, we may also have a LAN, a local area network connection. So if you have a LAN, you also need to use port address translation as well as default routing to direction of ISP. So this thing going to be identical or a same on core router B and core router A. So these two routers actually currently treating as a client. So let me do that thing. So IP root, so everything which I do not have inside my routing table, I will send to my dialer interface 1. And dialer interface is actually connected with the ISP. So the next thing is loopback 0, which I am going to emulate as a LAN. So most of DSL router you will find what, this private IP address. So my loopback going to emulate or simulate as a LAN. The next thing which I need to be configured, the loopback is going to be the IP net inside, in my dialer interface going to be the IP net outside. Along with this, I also need to create an access list. So the next thing, let me exit out, interface dialer 1 IP net, IP net outside. Let me create IP access list. This is the standard one, and permit, this is the network which we are going to use, 192.168.1.0 and then IP net, let me do IP net inside will be source list, and then going to use interface dialer overload on it. So this is the pad actually. IPNet inside source will be list number 1, which going to use interface dialer number 1 and perform overloading or a pat. So now we can send data to the ISP. On ISP, what I'm going to do, I'm going to create an interface. This is loopback interface 1 and IP address 8.8.8 to verify the connectivity. So from core router A, let's ping to 8.8.8. As we can see, we do have a connectivity. In order to check NAT is working or not, so I'm going to use my source interface loopback 0. As we can see, we do have a connectivity from our private IP address to the public IP address because we performing NAT. So IP NAT translation we can see. The same thing going to be configured on core router B. Before hopping over core router B, I would like to show something, or I would like to verify the PPPOE configuration and all those. So the first command which we can use, so IP interface brief. Here we can see, sorry. So IP interface brief. Here we can see we have a dialer and the IP address which is negotiated from the ISP. The next thing we can debug PPPOE events or PPPO debug. Let me debug PPP negotiation and PPP authentication. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn the interface off, which is dialer, and bring them back. So shut down this interface, and then after no shut the interface. So on configure terminal interface dialer 1 no shut down. Now negotiation should going through. Oh. I think the time stamp is disabled, so let me fix it. Okay, so this is actually services what? Services debug it was services timestamp debug. We want to date time millisecond, and again interface dialer one, set the interface, and then after no shut this interface. Now we're supposed to see the debugging output. The interface change state to up. So IP interface brief. Yes, debugging is going on. There we go. So we can see these information like PADI, PADO and all those things. They're going to connect with the ISP. And finally we can see authorization is required, and authorization going to be, let me show you. State is open, no authorization without authentication, faces authentication is going to, challenge handshaking we're going to use, the source name, great, and finally state is up and chat is success. And now we do have a connectivity. So we can see this is the command which we can use to verify the connectivity of point to point over Ethernet. The next thing what we can do, so these are the command actually. So IP interface brief, debug point to points events, debug PPP negotiation, and debug point to point authentication. So the same configuration can be applied on core router B. So let me use so running config and copy this one to the core router B. So this is the loopback interface, and this one and this one. That is good. Let me use right from loopback interface. So this is the loopback interface, so on and so forth. Copy that one and use the notepad. Uh, this thing I don't want to configure. The relevant information are this one. Similarly, I'm not going to use the interface f0/0. I'm going to use interface f0/1. Then rest of thing is identical, or I should say same on both routers. So the loopback interface, which is going to emulate as a LAN. This is the physical interface. Here I also need to execute command please no shut down. So no IP address, duplex auto, okay. Serial I don't need to be configured. Similarly on the serial interface, yes, we do have the dialog interface in root as well. So control A, copy and paste on the other router. So it may take a little bit time because we running NAT on this router. Sorry, we want to run NAT on this router. The next thing is verify. So IP interface brief. Yes, we can see our IP address is 1.1.1.3. The next thing, check the connectivity to 8.8.8. Yes, we do have a connectivity. So you can debug and you can verify all about as we seen so far. For client configuration, this is a basic configuration which we have gone through this video, and this is all about.